Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the schedule of additional provisions number 1 of 2022 were examined in detail and have passed through committee stage with amendments. Madam Speaker, I will go ahead and read the resolution. Be it resolved that the House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands approves the supplementary estimate set out in the schedule, which represents monies to be expended under their respective heads in variation or excess of the amount appropriated by the Appropriation Act 2022, Act 2021, number 41 of 2021 as follows. A, recurrent expenditure of $11,199,700 to be charged against the consolidated fund of the territory, which includes a sum of $5,878,000 from the reserve fund. B, capital acquisition expenditure of $836,000, which includes a sum of $676,000 from the reserve fund and a sum of $160,000 to be charged against the development fund of the territory by way of funds transferred from the consolidated fund. And C, capital expenditure of $19,361,500, which includes a sum of $3,964,200 from the reserve fund and $850,000 from the Transportation Network Improvement Fund to be charged against the development fund of the territory. Madam Speaker, just allow me to say a few words about this SAP as we refer to it. We would have done a SAP during the sit-in, earlier in the sit-in, that was basically a cleanup exercise for 2021. And that, of course, is a bit easier to deal with because, of course, the money has already been expended, and it's just a matter of the House ratifying it. But in this instance, Madam Speaker, this is a SAP which is current. It represents monies which are to be expended. And therefore, it was a much more rigorous exercise. So we would have been dealing with this particular SAP, which represents some $30 million in spending over a number of days. And a number of questions, of course, would have been asked to the Ministry of Finance, and of course, certainly there would have been advocacy for a number of urgent projects, and of course, members went through those deliberations over the last few days. And certainly, of course, we will not get full 100% agreement on all aspects of it, but of course we have a SAP that we're going to be moving forward with, and for which I ask for the members' support. Madam Speaker, without a shadow of a doubt, we are at a turning point in our history as it pertains to a number of things. But we are also at a turning point as it pertains to our financial model. Our two main pillars have been challenged, but they have performed well for us over the years. But the challenges have come to a head, I would say. And it's important for us now to take a close examination of our financial model, our main revenue earners. And we'll have to see how we can ensure that we are still able to bring in the revenue necessary to meet the many, many, many obligations that we have. Madam Speaker, certainly financial services has performed well for us over the years. But we all know, of course, that there are significant external pressures, which we continue to handle well. But of course, we always have our eye on the financial services revenue. And we certainly have our eye on, of course, we've just gone into June. And traditionally, May is where we expect a large quantity of our financial services revenue to come in. And we're going to look and see what those numbers look like so we can evaluate and see potentially how current matters may have impacted financial services revenue. We are aware, of course, of tourism and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the tourist industry around the entire world. And of course, we're still faced with recovery. We've made great strides, many properties rebuilt, of course, many improvements made to our tourism product since the storms of 2017. But we continue to see challenges, though we certainly have opportunities as well. Madam Speaker, on the expenditure side, we have many, many challenges. And it is certainly an exercise to determine what to prioritize, what to move forward with the limited revenues that we have to expend. We can point to 1,000 places in our society in need of support. In this SAP, of course, and person should recognize that we do have a budget that we passed late last year. And this schedule of additional provisions are simply for expenditure which has not been budgeted, which is additional to the budget that we passed late last year. And so, of course, this SAP would not represent the totality of expenditure for the government for this year. But what we've sought to do in this SAP is deal with some very pressing matters. And I'll just see if I can just go through a few of them, not in any detail, Madam Speaker. But of course, I think a real victory for us in this SAP is that we have provided the funding to complete the Elmer Stout High School project. And I'm sure that the Minister of Education will want to expound a little bit on that. And we've put the resources in place to be able to start the Jas Van Dyke Primary School project. And of course, I know also that the Minister of Education, as well as the district representative, will certainly will be happy about that and will want to recognize that. And of course, we have, spending for some human resources in the Ministry of Education that will assist with getting the projects ready, the other projects which need to be done on our primary and secondary schools throughout the territory. Of course, in terms of health, the Ministry of Health, we have a number of urgent areas which need to be addressed. We've sought to address some of those areas here. Of course, in terms of garbage collection, recycling program. Of course, monies for incinerator down at Packwood Pond. And of course, in Ministry of Health is a critical area of focus. And we're looking forward to the minister coming forward with his reforms in a number of areas that will help us to make better value for money and to address some of the challenges that we have in that particular area. Of course, we have some monies here in this SAP for the Cuban Brigade, who has been here supporting us through COVID and, of course, helping us to make a particular transition out of COVID, ensuring that our healthcare system, which has had some challenges as it pertains to, of course, staffing, the Health Services Authority. I've been told, and I'm sure we'll hear more about this from the minister in due course, I'm told that there's been challenges in terms of the staffing because of lucrative opportunities elsewhere. But the Cuban Brigade has been able to fill a gap. Madam Speaker, of course, we are addressing the areas of sewage. We had Boat Point sewage plant that needs to be repaired. We also have the plant in Paraquita Bay, which needs to be repaired. And of course, as we know, sewage has been a focus over the last few months. Of course, we have the sewage system in King Garden Bay. We have the Eastern Long Look sewage project, which is ongoing. Persons would have noticed some activity taking place there, and we're looking forward to that project really getting active from this point towards the end of the year. And there's a number of other significant expenditure that is taking place in this SAP, Madam Speaker. I won't go too much further, but just to say we have quite a number of urgent concerns that this is addressing, and perhaps the final one I'll mention is that we do have spending in here to address recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry report. We have money in here for Auditor General as well as the Police Commissioner and some other areas that will help to support the implementation of the recommendations of the COI report. Madam Speaker, of course, all of this expenditure does come at a price. Of course, we have several funds where we had to pull money from, including the reserve fund. And I've asked the Ministry of Finance to be very aggressive about revenue saving measures. We'll be back in this House again shortly for a budget adjustment exercise where we'll be seeking to find savings in the budget. The Ministry of Finance has been finding creative ways through the use of technology as well to try to save money, whether it's through digitizing so that we don't have to print paper, etc., like that. Even in terms of the checks from the Treasury, they have an initiative, of course, where you can have some direct deposits that will allow the Treasury to save some money as opposed to printing out those checks at a cost. So I applaud the efforts of the Ministry of Finance. We have to get even more aggressive. We have to get even more creative. And as I said before, we have to look at things which are causing the government a great deal of financial stress, things like the unfunded liabilities of pensions, etc. Those are issues that we can't afford to continue to kick down the road, that we'll have to address because, of course, the financial model that we have right now needs to be adjusted so that it can be sustainable moving into the future. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I certainly put forward this resolution, this motion to the House, and I hope that members will give it their full support so that we can move forward and do some of this crucial work which needs to be done, which will take us into the end of the year and, of course, the next budget exercise that we'll have to go through for 2023 will certainly be an area where we'll have to make some very tough decisions. But we are getting on with the work, Madam Speaker, and I thank the members in advance for their support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Premier.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion on the schedule of additional provisions number 1 of 2022, and I reserve my comments at a later stage.
Thank you. The floor is now open for debate. I recognize Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the supplementary we're talking about is for the expenditure of funds. And in the recurrent expenditure, Madam Speaker, we're looking at $11,199,700. And in the capital expenditure, Madam Speaker, we're looking at $19,361,500. Madam Speaker, these funds are coming from a variety of sources, including the Development Fund, the Consolidated Fund, the Reserve Fund, among others. And of course, I even see the TIF is in there, Transportation Network Infrastructural Fund. It's part of that consortium of funds. Madam Speaker, when a SAP comes to the House, as a matter of fact, supplementary should only come to the House for 2 reasons. One is Madam Speaker, is in the case of an emergency. If you want to look at this one as being here in the case of an emergency, you could look at it as to facilitate the requirements of the COI recommendations. That's an emergency, and that's acceptable. The other reason, Madam Speaker, is poor budgeting and also poor execution of the budget. We, on our side here in the BVI, Madam Speaker, in this Honorable House, lacks what it takes to avoid having poor execution of a budget, which would be a public accounting and an appropriations committee, which would ensure that monies that are appropriated would be used through the course of the year. That committee, Madam Speaker, will monitor the execution of works by ministries and its departments. We don't have that. So what you will find, Madam Speaker, is, as I'm hearing, there'll be another SAP in July. And they refer to those as cleanup SAPs. Madam Speaker, what these so-called cleanup SAPs do is it gives the Ministry of Finance an added ability to manage how ministries and departments execute their duties. The process, Madam Speaker, is so cumbersome that it allows the Ministry of Finance to do it, while at the same time handicapping the ministries and departments. In the past, Madam Speaker, a long time ago, once monies were appropriated, a department had access to that money. What is happening now is that the Ministry of Finance decides to reserve all funds that have been appropriated. And in order to access it, you have to go through some de-reservation process in order to access the money that has been appropriated by this House. By the time that de-reservation takes hold, Madam Speaker, time has elapsed. And with the elapse of time, Madam Speaker, much of those projects don't get executed until the year has passed. And we have found ourselves in a situation, Madam Speaker, where money has been appropriated for us and it goes towards the previous year's projects because those projects took so long to get completed that the monies for that particular year were not accessed. So we're going to come here next month, Madam Speaker, and they're going to come with what they call a cleanup SAP. What that cleanup SAP is going to do is going to limit anything new from happening, and it's going to start taking monies away from money that we have already appropriated and put them towards other things that we did not budget for at the beginning of the year. So when I see a supplementary come to the House, Madam Speaker, it makes me nervous, and it's not something that I can readily appreciate, and that's not good, Madam Speaker. In this particular supplementary, Madam Speaker, we've gone through it. I think that we've gone through it with almost a fine-tooth comb. I had my part to say about it, and I'd just like to comment on some of the things that I find to be of concern to me and everyone else, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when I look at under the Ministry of Health and Social Development, there's a subhead 528662 called Coronavirus Prevention Expenses. Coronavirus Prevention Expenses. And we've gone through the process with the coronavirus and all the protocols that were initiated, but it never dawned on me, Madam Speaker. I've heard the figures before, but it never dawned on me what the cost of this project really was. And I'm looking at it, and it says the approved estimate for 2022 was $10,500,000. And now, Madam Speaker, what I'm asking for the minister to do is to bring to this honorable House the accounting for those figures, that money that was spent, and for what it was spent, Madam Speaker. And now we're looking in this supplementary for $1,230,000, $1,230,800, and it's going towards, Madam Speaker, additional funding required to cover expenses related to hosting the Cuban Medical Brigade for 2022. Madam Speaker, I've heard about these Cubans that are here in the territory working in our healthcare services. And Madam Speaker, whatever assistance we get, we're grateful for, especially during that period of COVID. But what I need to know, Madam Speaker, is, and the public also, what has the Cubans brought to the table? I'm sure they brought something, but the people need to know, and I need to know, Madam Speaker. So I'm asking the minister to come to this honorable House and explain to us what the Cubans have done, what they are doing, and what plans we have for them going forward if we're going to be expending more funds for that program, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the waste management, still the same ministry, waste management. Madam Speaker, one thing that is plaguing this territory, and it's something that I have to talk about because in my district, and I'm sure this is the same in all districts, the issue of effluent waste running off from people's home into the street, and in many cases onto the neighbor's property. It has to stop, Madam Speaker. And no matter how people complain, Madam Speaker, and you go to the Ministry of Environmental Health to talk about this issue, it still persists. It is the initiation of the problem, Madam Speaker, doesn't come from environmental health, but it ends up being their problem. It's a problem of design. If the Town and Country Planning our Land Development Control Authority would stop people from building their homes and properties and buildings so close to the main road, where there is no provision whatsoever for them to build a proper septic tank and effluent waste. This problem will go away, Madam Speaker. All they need to do is look to our next door neighbor in U.S. Virgin Islands that has proper guidelines for anyone who wants to build. You don't see this happening in St. Thomas because there are proper guidelines. If you're walking in the street and you see water in the street, avoid it because it's not potable water. If you see water in the street, avoid it. It's not potable water. It's effluent waste. We have to address this matter, Madam Speaker. And I'm hoping that the Minister for Health and Social Development is making copious notes of this because it's something that's not going away on its own. And if government has to invest in fixing the problem and at some point charge the homeowner, we have to do it. It's a health issue. Something has to be done about it, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm looking at the removal of derelict vehicles under the same ministry. That's 528330. The removal of derelict vehicles. There's a site in Seacows Bay. And if you've ever been to Ellis Thomas Downs on race day, and you're sitting in the grandstand, you couldn't help but notice it, Madam Speaker. It's there. Those vehicles, derelict vehicles, piled up. And it had been a nuisance for decades. It's not this particular government is responsible. This particular government is not responsible for it. They didn't meet it there anyway. But it's been going on for decades. Thankfully, Madam Speaker, under this same administration, they removed those vehicles from Seacows Bay and cleared the site. I'm hearing that they are harassing somebody saying that they want the site. They want the site. And no matter how I ask the former minister, he doesn't know anything about it. I ask this current minister, he doesn't know anything about it. So I want to know who's leading the charge to want this site, Madam Speaker. And I'm telling the minister, if it is his intention to bring derelict vehicles back into Seacows Bay, the people of Seacows Bay flat out rejects it. So don't even try to bring them back in there. Flat out rejects it, Madam Speaker. And then, Madam Speaker, on head 528660, trucking and backhoe service, it says funding required for heavy equipment operations at the Packwood Pond dump site. What is this, Madam Speaker? If you go down to Packwood Pond to register your vehicle, you can't help but notice it by looking up in the hillside. And you need to notice it, Madam Speaker, because you need to know where the garbage that leaves your home ends up. That's where it ends up, Madam Speaker, in the hillsides of Packwood Pond. In open dumping, open burning, Madam Speaker, because the incinerator has been down and is still down. I'm hearing from the minister it's been down since February. The incinerator in and of itself, because it never had a scrubber, is a health hazard. Take away the incinerator and start burning the garbage outdoors. That's even worse of a hazard, Madam Speaker. But it doesn't end there, Madam Speaker, because what they're doing is they're carving out the hillside, carving it out, taking the dirt and covering the burning objects or whatever it is to burn up there, the garbage that they burn, to cover it with it, to smother the smoke. But, Madam Speaker, worst yet is that all of this is happening in my district. All this is happening in my district, which is the 3rd district, and I know nothing about it, about the operation. I know they're burning garbage out there, but there's a huge operation, Madam Speaker. We appropriate in this supplementary $277,000 or $277,900. This is what's been appropriated for this operation. This money isn't being burned, Madam Speaker, along with the garbage. That means somebody's getting this money. This is going on top of $318,983,000. I'm asking the minister, who's responsible for this subject, to have some respect for the district representative. If you're coming into my constituency to do all of this, I need to know, Madam Speaker. It is only parliamentary decency, parliamentary procedure. I'm not asking for anything more. That's all I'm asking for, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the Ministry of Transportation, Works and Utilities, they have city management. And you'll be surprised to know, Madam Speaker, the city management, the city, as far as I understand it, it's extended into my district, which is the 3rd district. It comes all the way down to almost Slaney, the roundabout there at Prospect Reef. My district begins at Fort Burt. So I have an interest in what the city management does. If you look at Burt Point, the access to Burt Point, Madam Speaker, the road is in terrible condition, terrible. And the reason it's that bad is because of the sewage that spills on the road, raw sewage. So, Madam Speaker, if you're going into Right West Supermarket, I don't want to give them negative publicity, so I wouldn't say anything regarding that. I'll just move on, Madam Speaker. But I'll get to that Burt Point to shipment plant a little, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you got to bear with me and understand and realize that these papers are not particularly manageable. 4, 5, 6, 7. There's got to be a page 6 here somewhere, Madam Speaker. 3, 4. It's got to be this one. I raised this topic, Madam Speaker, in the spirit of names, proper names, where they have a facility called AG Residence and Rehabilitation. And I thought that it was misleading, Madam Speaker, to refer to that property as AG Residence, since our current Attorney General doesn't enjoy that privilege of living in government quarters. To leave it the way it is, Madam Speaker, would give the impression to the public, would give the impression to the public that our Attorney General is being housed the complement of the government of the Virgin Islands, and that is not true. So I think that we should move towards correcting that subhead that says that's 3210800 that says AG's Residence Rehabilitation. We need to get rid of that terminology of AG's Residence, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the Ministry of Health and Social Development, there's mention here of the Eastern Longlow Community Center. And I just want to point out, Madam Speaker, that in January of 2021, I made a report that the community center in Siko's Bay, Madam Speaker, was moving along quite well. The rehabilitation of the center was moving along quite well. To put it in the context, Madam Speaker, during Hurricane Irma, the roof got damaged, some windows were blown out, and the place was like a lake. Everything is just flooded. Subsequent to that, Madam Speaker, the government did some repairs to the building, which was to address the issue with the roof and some of the shutters. But before that they were able to make use of that repairs, those repair work that they did. They got some funding. I think they got some funding from the EU and some from PAHO or something to that effect. That did a total remake of the building, took the roof off and all the rest of it, and changed all the shutters and some interior work. So I reported back in August of 2021 that things were moving well, and I was pleased because I saw hope. I went back in November of 2021, Madam Speaker, and the place was, for all intents and purposes, was finished, but it was shut down. And I made a report again saying that I was disappointed, and it's time that they move towards getting the building reopened. Because the last time that building was used was on January 31st of 2020, Madam Speaker, at a public meeting I had in that building. And since that time to this day, it has not been used for anything, public or otherwise. So I was asking, Madam Speaker, that the Minister of Health and Social Development pay close attention to having that building reopened for the purpose for which it was intended. Our seniors has no place to go, and that's a travesty, Madam Speaker. The Minister, the Premier has announced that he will be having a series of public meetings beginning on the 20th. It would be nice if the people of Sikau's Bay and the 3rd District in general can utilize the community center for those purposes. I understood that they're waiting for representatives from PAHO and probably the UN, the EU to come doing an official opening ceremony. If those people can't make it by then, Madam Speaker, there is a thing called an official opening. The building doesn't have to stay locked down until such time. We need to use that building. And while you're at it, Mr. Minister, you have to get chairs for the community center. I see you have here for Longlook Eastern, and I'm not knocking it. God knows you need it. But in this supplementary, you got $300,000 going towards that project. And like one representative was saying, you got 2 projects. One was started in 2016. That's phase 1. You got another one going on right now. You got $2 million going towards, $2 million going towards that. Why don't you just finish my project and then continue the one you're doing? Give me $1 million. I'm not asking you for $100,000 from your project. You can find the money somewhere else. I'll tell you exactly where you can find the money, Madam Speaker. But get the chairs, Premier. I am grateful to the people who have given us their facilities to use for public services, for public meetings. You have been to the Seventh-day Adventist School in a public meeting already. You know what I'm talking about. I'm grateful to them for that, but nothing compares to this community center. People feel at home, it's their building, and it has greater access to the community. So I'm asking you to get that, just that small thing I'm asking you for. The National Sewage Project, Madam Speaker, Rotong, Bird Point Plant. Madam Speaker, this is the Bird Point Sewage Treatment Plant. And I spoke about it before, and I'm going to continue to speak about it because it is something that it bothers me, and it should bother everyone who knows about it. And people who don't know about it should hear about it, Madam Speaker. That sewage treatment plant at Bird Point is a plant that treats all the municipal sewage in Tortola that has connection to a plant, except for King Garden Bay. This is Rotong, Bargus Bay, Freebottom, Purcell, Hunton Gut, you name it. But it doesn't treat sewage in the district in which it's located, because there's no connection to it. And that plant has been down since the hurricane of 2017, Irma, which is 6 years ago. Some people would argue that it was done before that, but I could only speak to what I know. Madam Speaker, I was told that the cost to repair the plant is $2.5 million. 6 years ago, $2.5 million. So it's before this government time. Yes, but I can't let this government off the hook. Because when this government ran, all of them, they promised the people of the third district that they're going to have that plant up and running. All of them. That's how they got elected. We did very well in the third district, Madam Speaker. So I can't let them off the hook. And to this day, that plant is still not functional. So anyhow, they put $300,000 in the budget. $300,000. It's $2.5 million that the plant needs to get repaired, Madam Speaker, but they put $300 million, $300,000 in the budget. So now they come to June in this supplementary and realize, well, that $300,000 couldn't do anything, not even solicit the contractor's engagement. So they're now putting in another $1 million in this supplementary towards the repairs of the plant. The minister came here, he answered the question, told me that by the end of this year, he's hoping that either repairs will be completed or started, one of the two. But $1.3 million is not $2.5 million, Madam Speaker. The plant needs $2.5 million to get up and running. And the people of this territory should be enraged to know that the sewage that is being generated is being dumped in the waters right out there off Slaney. And we could do better. The minister, the premier and the minister promised that they will do better. I hope that they do, Madam Speaker, because this cannot be tolerated forever. And as you can see, it's not something that I take lightly. I come here and I speak about it every chance I get, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Finance told us that they've been very particular and careful about working within the Bowen guidelines. According to them, within the ratios and the formulas, you have several different things to be mindful of, one of which is liquid assets. And I must give this government credit, Madam Speaker, for having the definition of liquid assets changed back to where it was, almost to where it was, in favor of this country, in favor of this government. Before they took office, liquid asset meant simply the reserve fund, which was a little narrow window that we got, the reserve fund. Now that they have been able to get some adjustments to it, it now includes all the funds that her government has in all its accounts that are not unencumbered. And I'm being told that they've been very careful in their budgeting with the supplementary not to breach the protocol. Except in the case of liquid assets, they have gone over by 1%. They're supposed to have some 25% of the current expenditure. In liquid assets, they're now down to 24%. But Madam Speaker, in talking to talk, and the more you talk, the more you learn, if you're listening carefully. The TIF, the Transportation Network Infrastructural Fund, has $2.7 million in it. And from that $2.7 million, I think that they took $800,000, or that $800,000 was taken out before the $2.7 million balance. But there's $2.7 million in the TIF. So the financial secretary thought that my interest in the TIF, the balance in the TIF, was to make up the reserve, the liquid asset. So he told me that no, they don't count the TIF as part of your liquid assets. So whoop-de-doo, Madam Speaker, that's really great. So it means that we can use the money in the TIF and not worry about the balance in the Bowen guidelines. We can use it and not have to worry about the Bowen guidelines. But the TIF could only be used for specific projects, Madam Speaker. It has to be part of the transportation network. So here we are. Everybody in this room, especially district representatives, could tell you, Madam Speaker, how bad the roads are. I mean, you driving from Rotown to West End, you would think that you're in a boat. Yeah, because it's funny because when a boat goes in the air and it comes down and it hits the water, it's really like a jolt. Just like dropping in a pothole. If I don't go tongue every day, Madam Speaker, I have to make sure that I drive very carefully the first time because every time you go, there's a new pothole somewhere. So my point, Madam Speaker, is that our Minister of Finance has to make sure that he is au fait with the ins and outs of the finances of this territory in order for him to be as effective as he must be with the development of the territory, Madam Speaker. The officials in the Ministry of Finance has too much control over what the landscape of this territory looks like, should look like. They have too much control over the progress in the territory. And I'm not sending the Premier out there to get him, Minister of Finance out there to get himself in any tussle with his officers. But I think if he finds the time to have decent conversations with them, they will reveal more and more to him. Because just by sitting there today and asking them the right questions, you can learn a whole lot about the ins and outs of the finances of the country and what you need to do in order to get certain projects done. And I think that together, Madam Speaker, it can happen, and it must happen. I have said before, and I'm going to say it now again, Madam Speaker. Given the constraints that this country is in right now with the Commission of Inquiries, recommendations, and all the stuff that's going on, given the constraints, this administration has no room for error. There's zero wiggle room. And if this administration concentrates on getting the nuts and bolts inside their ministries adjusted properly and not concentrate on quote-unquote new initiatives, they might stand a chance. But if you try to do both at the same time, Madam Speaker, that chance is very limited. I want to support, give my support to the SAP because I see no alternative, Madam Speaker. Not everyone is pleased about what's in the SAP. I haven't had the opportunity to sit down with the Minister of Finance before the SAP was prepared and brought forward to say, well, I would like to have this, I would like to have that. But he's a new minister. And I'm sure by the time the next SAP comes out, he will consult before he present. Right? I think so. I think he will consult before he present, Madam Speaker. Because at some point, the criticism will start. Right now, this is advice. Right now, this is cooperation. But at some point, the criticism will start. And they don't feel the same when you get criticized. You start getting that chill over your body. And I don't think he wants to be chilly. He wants to be warm and nice when you get home. Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I promised,
Yeah,
I'll
for
be,
the
I would have been
opposition.
short.
Are there any other members that wish to debate? I call upon the Premier to wrap up. My apologies. Minister for Natural Resources and Labor, do you wish to? Thank you. Honorable Carvin Malone.
me off there we go. Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank you very much for affording me the opportunity to make remarks under this segment under this segment, because it is critical that we support the supplementary budget. It is critical that the works of government continue. I am quite aware that we are living in a time, in a space that is most difficult throughout the world. I have a number of pieces to opine about, talk about, but it's all in good stead because I have spent the last 2 to 3 weeks and with deep reflections, primarily because we are in a space and time that we have never been before. So my presentation is going to be very short, so I will invite everyone, like I always do, to get closer. Come. Come closer. Turn on your radios, turn on whatever you have. Because, Madam Speaker, I did not get an opportunity to congratulate you on being elected to the post. And as I have told you privately, you came in and you've acted like someone who's been understudying this post for quite a while. So quite an admirable display of your skills and expertise and your brilliance. So I'd like to thank you very much for all that you have done thus far. Some call it a honeymoon, but I know that you have all of what is required in order to get past the honeymoon stage and get this job done. So I'd like to thank you very much for accepting the challenge, because it was at a critical time in our territory and in what we have to do. Madam Speaker, the challenge that I have, and I was about, I had intended to be 45 minutes late, and I was about 3 or 4 hours delayed. Because, especially over this weekend, my spirit was quite unsettled until this morning. Because we have well, let me just tell you, in the last 2 or 3 weekends, I've spent some time in Jocelyn Dyke, and I spent some time in West End and East End and Virgin Gorda, and I've listened to a number of my golden gems and the youngsters, and they are asking, what is happening? People are reaching out for information because, and I listen to the morning shows, the evening shows, the midnight shows, the mid-morning shows, and folks are pondering what is happening. And as we debate, or as we look at this supplementary, we have to be mindful that, as I have said in the committee stage, we have so much work to do, so little funds, and so little time. I listened on, I think it was Monday, because after the Jubilee celebrations, I listened all Monday and Monday evening and heard the House of Commons debated the the measure as to whether or not they had confidence in the Prime Minister. I listened also to 11 days ago where the finance minister in the UK passed a resolution. They could call it a supplementary, if you may, of some, is either 13 or 30 billion dollars to assist the less fortunate and those affected by the global pandemic, those affected by the disruption in transportation, the supply stream, the wars throughout the world, especially in Ukraine, rising inflation, and the gas prices. I have ordered a bicycle because I think that it's going to yield me two purposes. Number one, I can lower my weight. I had intended to have it lowered by the time I reach June 12th, 63. That ain't work. So I think if I get a bicycle, I can save on gas prices, and I can get my exercise, lower my weight. Madam Speaker, because I take what used to be $50 and $60 to fill up my tank, and now I'm rushing at $100, and I still can't get it to hit the full mark. It's gone crazy. Electricity bills out the sky. My wife does most of the shopping, and I think she's doing much less of that now, so I can do some diet by that also. Because when you go and you come home, I used to be able to help her to bring the groceries inside, but there's no need for that now. Not enough groceries. So, our people are going to hurt as a result of natural phenomena. Natural in that. The pandemic and the war, the this and that, right? But we have, and the way that I approach subjects are quite different, and I must admit, quite different than how most people will do it, because I would love to come here and have all the monies we need to do all of the works that we need throughout this territory. But I have opined the fact that we have spent over 70, 80 to $100 million, and Minister of Health is on the inside now, so he will get the report that he's opining about for the past year, if not 6 months. How was the money spent? And he must get it. It's there. Minister of Finance will make sure that he finally gets it. Madam Speaker, the whole thing is that we've had to displace a lot of money to keep us to where we can meet and we can talk about whether or not we're having festivals in 2022 and whether or not we have all of the celebrations that I've seen. We can attend churches. Pews are full. We go and we attend bacchanals and party. I can't announce what I'm doing on the 12th because my wife wouldn't. She'll have the house full and she'll say, we'll wait. We decided on a number. But the fact is that we can do this because of the monies we spent. That's the only reason why we can do this. But it has cause and effect. Some of what we would have loved to have accomplished could not have been done, cannot be done, and when this oncoming COI and the recommendations and some of the measures that I've heard already, the minister stated that there's another supplementary coming but I can almost bet you it is to deal with some of the issues that we're going to have to deal with. So the monies that we think we would have had, we will not have. A lot of households are hurting, and we have to hurt them a little bit more because of some of the issues that we have to come to grip with. So, Madam Speaker, how do you prepare your people? Because, you see, some folks misunderstand me very, very much, because when January 1st, 2012 reached, and we had the closing of the public consultation for the white paper, and we had the protocol signed in April 23rd, 2012, and we had the deadlines not met in December 2015, and we had a number of issues that arose. What's the English for this? Arose. We had all of these things that we had to deal with. And I used to send out my little popcorn sign. I used to, because I looked at Turks and Caicos, I looked at Caymans, I looked at Anguilla, I looked at Montserrat, and the same pitfalls that they had is what we were having. And I kept on saying, this blockbuster movie is coming to a theater close to you. Be mindful. Be mindful of what it is that we are doing, because we're going to have to come to grip with this. So it is a little bit difficult for me to be warning about all of these signs for the past 7, 8 years. And then you reach to the point where it is just about, there's this old song I listen to almost every Sunday. It is finished. It is done. But done for whom? The battle isn't over, because our people have to live this. I spoke of the stories of Noah and the ark. I spoke of the stories of Moses, and the warning given to people that these things will come, these things will happen. And here they are. We must prepare our people for what's coming forward, Madam Speaker. We must prepare our people, have them involved in whatever fate is going to behold them, because at the end of the day, we all enjoy the fruits of it, we all enjoy the spoils of it, and we are going to go through it together. So this supplementary is one which I welcome, but it is the beginning of a journey that we must take. We had crossroads. I wrote that in my blogs. We had the crossroads. Which path do we take? I see the honorable member for the second looking at his watch, and he tells me I have 60 seconds left. But we had crossroads. Which path do we take? Of this I know. And I was given godly advice that the battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. I've been given godly advice and says, do as instructed, wait, and see the salvation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I recognize the member for the Ninth District. Let us just be mindful of time.
Half an hour? Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, before I begin, I too want to congratulate you publicly on becoming the Speaker of this honorable House. It's good to have a very young person, as I always prefer a young person. I think we shouldn't just talk the talk, but also walk the walk when it comes to giving our people opportunity. So, yes, I'm very happy to see you there. Madam Speaker, we're here to pass the SAP schedule of additional provisions, which in essence is spending above what you had planned to spend. is what a SAP is. For those persons who may have heard the word but not really know what it is. Mr. Speaker, I grew up at a different time. I'm a little older than you are. So I grew up with some particular sayings, like don't hang your hat where your hand can't reach, cut your cloth to suit your garment, and so forth. So when we are going to come to the House to pass additional spending that we won't plan for, it's cause for pause, it's cause for reflection on why it is necessary. And I think if you go through the various items in the SAP, you have to agree they are all necessary. But let's go back a little bit, Madam Speaker, to the whole idea of financing in this country. And I'll take you back to before 1978, where we generated some of our money, but some also came from the UK. They used to call it grant and aid. And then in 1978, under the grandfather for current premier, we came off grant and aid and had our first Minister of Finance. But what happened in 1978? Because I was curious to why 1978 and not 1976 or 1975. So I did a little digging into what happened. You see, Madam Speaker, when you are dealing with finance, income and expenditure, if these two things don't balance, you're going to have a problem. It's like a bathtub. If you run water in a bathtub with the plug open, if more water is going to go out than what goes in, the tub will always go dry. But if less go out than what goes in, it's going to overflow. Your finances for a country is supposed to balance. The same amount goes in, comes out. It didn't really happen in the BVI until 1978. So I went back to see what happened. See, as countries develop, they tend to also increase their expenditure. I've heard this for years, every year, the current expenditure is too high, it's increasing, we have to cut it back. But as countries develop, you need more infrastructure to support your population, so your expenses will naturally increase. The trick, Madam Speaker, is to increase your income also. So what happened in 1978 that tipped the scale? As far as my research shows, there was one particular thing that stood out that happened in 1978, and that was the sale of Peter Island. When Peter Island was sold in 1978, it brought in an influx of money. An influx of money. And I think persons then realized, oh, through land sales, we can actually increase our revenue without hurting the people. 2004, we increased those rates to where whenever land was sold, it even got more revenue. Now, I'm saying all this to say this because, Madam Speaker, we have to balance things that make money versus things that don't make money. It's a very important thing to do. For years, we've all been saying we have to always diversify the economy. We have tourism, financial services. Both are fragile and fickle. Either one can diminish every single day. But the country still has to run. Madam Speaker, you look at the Jasper Next School. Schools don't make money, but they're absolutely necessary for the development of the country. Because persons will criticize, well, why are you spending all this money on these things that don't generate income? But it's something, Madam Speaker, that we have to be mindful of, that we must balance non-generating entities with entities that generate revenue, so the balance is maintained. Madam Speaker, I spoke during the closed session about equity in the distribution of monies. We have 9 districts and different economies, so to speak. My district is a 9th district that's primarily funded through tourism. Other districts don't have much tourism, but they may have banks and other entities in them. Madam Speaker, It's not business as usual. And I think we need to move away. I listened to the members speak earlier, and they were complaining about various things that are wrong in their districts that have been wrong for a very, very long time. Well, why do these problems that to me are not insurmountable continue to persist year after year? Madam Speaker, we're bringing a SAP in the month of June, and that too is cause for alarm. We need to move the situation, Madam Speaker, where we start deciding or having fixed amounts of money to spend in each of the districts to get their projects done. If you look at the SAP, it's a little over $30 million, but it's not spent in all the districts. It's concentrated in only some of them. I think we need to get to a point where all the districts are seeing a certain amount of money spent in them. Yes, all districts don't create or generate the same amount of money, but all the districts have needs. I'm not going to make a big fuss about not seeing any of the SAP spent in the 9th district. It means we've balanced our projects, and we have done significant projects in the 9th district over the last 3 years. So I can't complain. But Madam Speaker, there's still a lot to be done. And I think when we come to do a SAP, extra money, it should go between everybody. Everybody should get an equal share. If you're going to put the whole country in debt, the way the whole country pays taxes for the debt, then everybody should benefit from all money spent. That's my position. All people pay tax, so all the districts should benefit equally when it comes to money being spent. Madam Speaker, it's $30 million, and we're in June. It's a necessary spending. Schools, sewage, health, and so forth. Madam Speaker, it's not business as usual, and I think we have to get our people fully on board with us, understanding what this new era, this new paradigm, this paradigm shift, this new time we are going through now, what the implications are for them, so they are not caught by surprise. It is important, that last member said it earlier, it is important that we engage, educate, and sensitize our people to what these changes are going to be. Madam Speaker, having said that, I fully support the SAP as I must, and I will take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you, member for the 9th District. Is there anyone else wishing to debate? Minister for Natural Resources and Labor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to give my support to the motion and of the supplementary appropriation bill before us on this evening, Madam Speaker, which we have over the last 3 meetings, which have gone over the span of 3 weeks thereabout, been going through in grave detail and trying to ensure that we not only balance the budget, Madam Speaker, but we also ensure that the decisions that are being taken, understanding that government continues, even though sometimes things change and people are shifted, some are elevated, others are moved for varying reasons, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have a battle And my battle is simply that I cannot ever disassociate myself from myself. I have to always be me. And I always have to speak my truth. Because anytime I move away from that, I will be pretending or pretentious, and I don't believe in being either one of those things. Madam Speaker, we have gone through this process that the Honorable Premier, the Honorable Natalia Wheatley, who I've stood publicly in this Honorable House of Assembly, who I've stood publicly outside of this House of Assembly, and said to him on the date that we had the meetings with the UK minister and her team and the governor, I said to him then, I said, and I will say now, Madam Speaker, my only goal is to fight for the life, the growth, and the development of these Virgin Islands, and to ensure that its people are placed in a position where we are able to not just determine our destiny, but control, Madam Speaker, the course of where we go as a territory. Madam Speaker, when we were sworn in, the two members which I sit or now stand between, the Minister for Health and the Minister for Education, who today makes 1 month and 2 days since we are here sitting and serving, together with the Premier and the Minister of Transportation, Works and Utility, who I guess is in a little bit better situation because he's continuing in a ministry that he would have had leadership of since being elected. Madam Speaker, I have no hidden agenda but the Virgin Islands agenda. I have, and I try my earnest best to honor my word. And my word to the Honorable Premier, when this Government of National Unity was agreed upon by the UK Minister and her team, when we stood and we got together, I pledged to the Premier that I would support him in this fight to secure the future of the Virgin Islands and to ensure that we do every single thing that is humanly possible with the help and guidance of God Almighty, that we would try to safeguard the Constitution of the Virgin Islands from being suspended, while also recognizing, accepting, and making a conscious decision that we must, and we would address and attempt to reform the areas of the recommendations in the Commission of Inquiry report, along with others that were not highlighted in that report. Madam Speaker, I remember saying that it is not just for us to do what is recommended in the report, but it's for us to do what is expected. We are to do what is legal, moral, and ethical, even if it is not highlighted in the report, because we know what we should be doing. And Madam Speaker, I do not sway from that commitment to the Honorable Premier, nor this government of national unity, nor especially to the people of the Virgin Islands, that I will continue to fight on our behalf. Given this responsibility, Madam Speaker, now serving as the appointed minister, and I make a joke with the ministry team to whom I'm now responsible to lead. I told them I have a 24-hour appointment at a time until we get this decision from the UK. But in my every waking day, Madam Speaker, it is important for me to start to look in the areas of my responsibility. I have said that and echoed the words of the Premier that changes will be made, that persons will be affected, families and those that we will love and know. And I have even said it to the persons that I am now responsible for, that the Premier is just giving us a warning of what to expect. Because in order to change the way that we have been doing things, Madam Speaker, I keep saying that systems don't work, people do. If you don't have people that are working, the systems will not function. So I look now at this budget, and I must commend the Premier, Dr. Natalia Wheatley, for picking up a mantle for which he was not the Minister of Finance, and a lot of these project areas were not under his direct issuance. But in order to safeguard what we must safeguard in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of our infrastructure, Madam Speaker, after much debate, after much back and forth, after much, I would say even frustration and discussion, I believe we have come to a place where we would have settled on what we believe is the best way forward. And if you know anything about me, Madam Speaker, you know when I make a point, I make it, and I stick to it. And I think the Premier is learning that a little bit, but I believe he appreciates it as well. But I must also appreciate that it is not just about what I may think or what I may want to do. It is about what is best for this territory. So, Madam Speaker, permit me to just highlight a few areas as was done before. There are challenges that we must and will get through. There are challenges that even while I sat as a member of the opposition that I highlighted, and I will not stop highlighting them, because my aim and my mission is never about me. It's always about the people that I represent. It's always about the people that I serve. So when we look, Madam Speaker, I won't steal the Minister's Education's thunder, but when you look at one of the projects that I have been lamented in this House over, Madam Speaker, for the Bruce Bay restrooms, the construction works have started. That bathroom has been on the books and on the budgetary books since 2016. And we were able to now secure the additional funding to get the restrooms finished, as well as the completion of the sewage treatment plant for the persons and people in Bruce Bay, as well as visitors. Madam Speaker, we have the Just Van Dyke Primary School, which again has been one of my, I don't want to call it my swan song, but it has been one of the songs that I have talked through because, you know, I don't sing very well. But I lamented on behalf of the people of and children of Just Van Dyke, and I want to thank the Minister of Education, Honorable De Castro, together with the Honorable Premier, for making the funding of $1 million available to begin the works on the Just Van Dyke Primary School, because we know that school has gone through a lot of changes and damages, and the children even now are learning and having to learn as we come to the end of the school year in the temporary trailers that have been outfitted. And thank God it is not raining at this time, as the minister would have me in her ears on something else. But I am happy that those funds have been made available. Madam Speaker, sorry. Madam Speaker, it is important also to note that we have some unfinished projects that it is being ongoing. The Bruce Bay Community Center, that's one of the projects in my area of representation as a second district representative that needs to be fixed, together with the King Garden Bay Community Center. I understand that the Premier has assured us that as we go into the end of this year and prepare the budgets, that we will now refocus, and this will be wholly and solely with the direction and unction and leadership of Dr. Natalia Wheatley. This will be, quote unquote, his government of national unity's budget, in the way that we would want things to shape up to be. And Madam Speaker, while I'm on that note, there's also some works that needs to be completed with the King Garden Bay revetment, but I understand that that is going to have to go a little bit further, together with some other projects that I would have had on the agenda. But Madam Speaker, it is important. It is important for all persons in this territory to understand, and I want to commend the people of the Virgin Islands for their patience. I want to commend them for their confidence. I know the frustration is real. We have been hearing it. I've even heard that I have disappeared and gone quiet. And somebody said they feel like I've gone on a rock, but I have been under the rock that is higher than I. My good member for the 6th District knows that song very well. But Madam Speaker, I have been under the rock of learning and understanding and reading and trying to comprehend the portfolio that has been gifted to me or loaned to me by the Honorable Premier as it relates to natural resources and labor. And Madam Speaker, I indulge the publics, the business community to whom we will serve, the end user, the stakeholders within the Labor Department, within the ministries, departments of lands and survey and natural resources, that there will be immediate changes taking place. We have to get to a point, Madam Speaker, where we move from the modus operandi that has now shifted to where we feel that we are doing persons a favor. Back to where we are actually serving our customers. And Madam Speaker, I hear the cries, I have heard and continue to receive the reports, Madam Speaker, so there is change coming. And this change is going to be tough, it is going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to change nonetheless. Because we cannot continue to do the same things and expect a different result, nor can we expect the habits of old and the things that we used to do to get by and get things done because you could make a phone call or have this relationship, Madam Speaker. Doing things legally, morally, and ethically. It is the agenda for which I will operate by, and I want the people of the Virgin Islands to know from Labour, from the tribunal, from the lands, from the natural resources and seabeds, from the areas of resources that deals with work enforcement and development, Madam Speaker, that we will be making these changes, but they will not come without having the conversation. And I'm asking persons, Madam Speaker, that when we come out to these public meetings, in addition to the ones that we will have as a government of national unity on the 20th, but when we come out within the departments of the ministry, while I would welcome your issues, I more so welcome the solution to your issues so that we can implement them to better serve the people of the Virgin Islands, so that the labor pains that we have been having for way past the period of pregnancy, we will be able to give birth to a new direction, to a new way of doing business in the territory, but more so to be able to transform and grow and diversify the economy of these Virgin Islands. So, Madam Speaker, as it relates to this bill, I think I have exhausted and ventilated the areas of concern that I would have had. I believe I have been satisfied with understanding from the direction of Honorable Premier Natalia Whitley that we will continue to work together to ensure that the future budgets and the future adjustments that need to be made will be made, Madam Speaker, and we will, once given the opportunity, prayerfully, hopefully, once given the opportunity, that the things that we have put forward and the things that we need to address to put our country back on the right track financially and through the reforms that will come, that the people of the Virgin Islands will be the better because of it. So, Madam Speaker, again, I pledge my wholehearted support to working to secure the development of this country and its people. I again reiterate my commitment to working with the Premier, Dr. Natalia Whitley, and this government of national unity, and I will do whatever it takes, Madam Speaker, to ensure that we are given the opportunity to put our country back on the right track, to repair the international, local, and regional reputation that we once had. Madam Speaker, I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Minister for Natural Resources and Labor. I call now on the Honorable Premier. I'm sorry, before the Honorable Premier, the Minister for Education. Before you proceed, Minister for Education, may I just ask again for us to be mindful of the time? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of this schedule of additional provision. Much have been said in this regard, but I wanted to ensure that I put on the record my support for this process. I want to acknowledge the Premier and Minister of Finance, as well as the Ministry of Finance, for the hard work and dedication over the past few weeks in relation to cementing and solidifying this SAP to what we have here today. It took a level of ingenuity and a commitment to being adaptable and to maneuver the very challenging times that we currently face. And I want us to acknowledge their efforts as well as their expertise and experience in assisting us to get through these times. Madam Speaker, I want to acknowledge that all ministries represented, all initiatives, programs, projects represented in this SAP would have gone through a very stringent process of prioritization at this time, and the ones that would have come out and made it in this document would have been the ones that we believed as a government were pertinent to the success and to the development of this territory at this time. I want to specifically mention the projects or initiatives under the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth Affairs, and Sports. I won't mention all due to time, but as stated before, the provision of the additional funding to finalize the ESHS redevelopment project as well as school supplies for ESHS is a very important part of this SAP that speaks to our commitment as a government to ensure that students are able to learn in an environment that is conducive and that is safe. And we commit to ensuring that we make continued steps in this regard. Also, the funding in support of the development of the Jos Van Dyke Primary School is also another one of the initiatives that has been provided with the additional funding to ensure that that project begins and continues to thrive and strive to support the great work of the educators in Jos Van Dyke who have been extremely patient under the circumstances that they have had to endure. Overall, Madam Speaker, I want to ensure that as we have made this commitment of funding, I want to take a moment to appreciate the patience and the hard work of the many principals, teachers, counselors, and faculty who have endured the conditions and have pressed forward in spite of to ensure that the students in this territory receive the requisite learning and resources that are needed to advance their educational development. We do not take it for granted, and we appreciate the opportunity to put this funding in place so that we can facilitate a better ethos and environment in these schools to ensure optimum development of our children. I also want to mention the importance of the funding that has been provided for the assessment and maintenance of school facilities across the territory, ensuring that we pay keen attention to looking at all of our facilities and ensuring that the requisite maintenance that is needed, especially as we come towards the summer months, that we capitalize on those months where children are not in school, and we do our best to allow for the requisite rehabilitation during that time. Madam Speaker, there's much more that could be said in relation to all the ministries, and I believe each minister, as well as the representatives, have done a lot to cover the varying areas that this SAP has covered. But I wanted to highlight those areas because I believe they're of keen interest to some of the stakeholders within the Ministry of Education. And I want to give that added assurance from the Ministry of Education that we will continue to make the requisite representation to ensure that the holistic approach that is needed to ensure that educational reform takes place, as well as the development of our facilities and schools, to ensure that the educational experience that our children and our educators deserve is of paramount concern to this government. So, Madam Speaker, I want to just end by stating that I'm in full support of this SAP, and I believe it has been facilitated in such a way where each ministry has been touched with the requisite funding necessary to move forward the priority areas at this time, and we look forward to continuing to make strides and steps to ensure the overall development of this territory by first and foremost ensuring that the needs of our people are met, especially in my case, the needs of our children who are our future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Minister for Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know the time is fast spent, and I'm known to at times speak very long, but Madam Speaker, I endeavor to be extremely brief in terms of making my contribution this evening on the schedule of additional provisions, number 1 of 2022, A, recurrent expenditure. Madam Speaker, we've had 3 very intense sessions of discussions, particularly and very uncomfortable sometimes discussions on this SAP, the supplementary appropriations, number 1 of 2022. But it said that to get diamonds or anything or what have it requires a little bit of pressure. It requires intense conversations, it requires intense deliberations, Madam Speaker, and I believe that during the last 3 sessions we were able to disagree on many of the issues, or agree to disagree, and move forward with a view of reform and renewance moving forward, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's been, as the member stated, 1 month and 2 days since this new administration has been sworn in, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I reflect on, I think it was April 28th of April, when the Premier and I met in the wee hours of the night, and we had a conversation, a deep, intense conversation. I made a commitment to support him and us to work collaboratively to do whatever is necessary to move this country forward and put this country on a sure and solid footing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, at that time I didn't give him my silence on issues of importance or my acquiescence. I didn't give him my blind allegiance, but I gave him my commitment that we will work collaboratively and collectively for the best interests of this country and the people of this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm a lot of things, and I try not to be is a hypocrite. Madam Speaker, I had specific concerns with this SAP coming into this process. And the last 3 days proved I was very diligent, very poignant in terms of my questioning because I think it's important and we have an ultimate responsibility to safeguard the finances of this country and be fiscally responsible in terms of how we expend the resources of the people of this territory, especially during the very difficult times that we're experiencing and going through as a territory, Madam Speaker. So I know the murmurings and grumblings when I open my mouth sometimes, but I can only be who I am, an Eastern Landlocked man. And we say it like it is. We call that if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it certainly is a duck. That's how I was raised. I'm going to continue to be forthright, be honest, and be truthful, and be true to the process because I think the people deserve it. We deserve and we have a responsibility, we have an obligation to the people of this territory in terms of the way forward. Madam Speaker, so I support us moving forward with this SAP number 1 of 2022. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker. And I just want to quickly outline a couple areas of concern, particularly with the Ministry of Health, and some areas of concerns in terms of the other broader areas. So I promise to be real quick, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, one of the things after taking up the appointment as Minister of Health is that I made a commitment to be open, transparent, and accountable, not just to the people of District 8, but to the people of this territory. Madam Speaker, I made some commitments with and had the PS in the ministry and the team in the ministry be very clear in terms of where we are, what we met, what is the reality, particularly in the troubling areas within the ministry, the issue of solid waste, the issue of COVID and COVID-19 spending. You heard the former minister speak about my continuous insistence, and I believe that is important. If we expend public funds, the public needs to be aware of how those funds were expended. And I've asked the ministry to give an account for all these broad areas, particularly with the COVID spending, the issues surrounding the waste management. The leader of the opposition mentioned the issue with the dump site in Parkwood Pond. We've made it very clear we are doing a report on what's happening there and where we are. And it's important that once those reports are done on NHI in all the respective areas, the Cuban Brigade, and I want to commend those persons from the Cuban Brigade who have worked collaboratively with the Health Services Authority, the institutions under the Health Services Authority, to bring the level of service that they brought to the institution and the fact that they continue to support and underpin the Health Services Authority during these very difficult times of staffing and getting the right personnel in place. But we will report to the people, Madam Speaker, because we owe it to the people. We have a responsibility, we have a duty to report to the people on how the finances that we are charged with the responsibility of administering is spent and appropriated. So, Madam Speaker, we have, under this particular SAP, and those reports will come to this House, Madam Speaker, once completed and vetted. Speaker, under the Ministry of Health, we have just under $2 million allocated to address the issues surrounding waste disposal and the issue particularly surrounding how we manage that waste disposal in terms of the recycling program that we're going to move forward with and continue to support. Madam Speaker, as we all know, February 14th, the incinerator was caught on fire and has been disabled since that day. We have had to change the methodology in which we manage the waste stream that comes in and is collected by the Ministry of Health and Social Development. And that is a very costly undertaking, a very costly exercise in terms of how that waste stream is managed. Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, we have undertaken to assess the process. We have engaged Consutech, who is the the manufacturer of the incinerator. On 23rd of May, we engaged Consitec to look at a process and a clear timeline for delivery and repair of the incinerator at Parkwood Pond. Madam Speaker, as a ministry, we've made established timelines for delivery of the parts, and I've said to the PS that we will establish bi-weekly updates with Consitec in terms of progress report, where we are in terms of the delivery times, to ensure that we stay on time, to ensure that we bring some relief in terms of the process that we're now forced to implement in terms of waste management. We've additionally focused on a more and a fast track through the RDA, the discussions on the comprehensive approach to waste management in the territory. The reality is that we cannot continue to manage our waste the way we've continued to manage it over several decades. There needs to be a new approach to waste management, and it has to be an approach that's inclusive of the entire territory and the populace. We can't just throw our waste in a dumpster and believe that it's no longer our problem. Waste management in this country is all of our problems. And we have to holistically and collectively and effectively manage the waste of this territory. And we're going to be coming out shortly, Madam Speaker, with a comprehensive approach in terms of how we manage the waste in this territory and how we as citizens have a critical part to play in the waste management in our territory. Madam Speaker, the elephant in the room that no one seems to want to talk about, NHI. Madam Speaker, NHI has had its challenges in the inception, and it continues to have its challenges. And Madam Speaker, that's been escalated to the ministry since February of this year. And the reality is, Madam Speaker, we have to act, and we have to act swiftly. We have to make some very tough and uncomfortable and unpopular decisions as it relates to NHI. Madam Speaker, I am committed. I know the Premier and this government is committed to making those decisions because it's important for us to maintain NHI and its benefit to the population in terms of delivering healthcare and health services to the people of this territory, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, some of the challenges as it relates to contribution, and I want to just say this, is that it's not just an issue of just making the legislative changes. We have to ensure that those persons who have been neglecting their obligation to pay into the system pays into the system. Based on the numbers that I've seen, if persons who are obligated to pay into the system have paid into the system, NHI will be in the black currently, based on the existing numbers that I've seen. So we have to ensure that persons are in compliance with their obligation to NHI. But we also have to make sure that we cut out the abuse that continues to plague the system, not the abuse, just an abuse on the system, but abuse on the customers as well, and make sure that there's sufficient compliance in the system. The NHI is not particularly in this SAP as we speak, but the Premier Minister of Finance, myself, and the Financial Secretary have discussed an approach to stabilizing NHI and to, in short order, move forward in making the structural changes that are necessary for these institutions and this scheme's viability. So the public is going to hear more on the approach for NHI in the short order, and we look forward to the feedback on our approach moving forward. Madam Speaker, the community centers, the member for the third speaker spoke about community centers. We are at a phase of opening some of the key community centers, the one in the 3rd district and the one particularly in the Eastern Long community. There are some funding in this budget for the Eastern Long Community Center. We're going to have some delays in terms of the approach in opening, but we expect to have the seniors back in our center shortly. And there's some changes in terms of some of the internal aspects of the community center that we have to fix and address so that the seniors could have a comfortable and refreshing environment to enjoy their golden years. I have had the privilege to interact with the seniors even more now as minister, particularly over the course of Seniors Month. And it's always a joy to be in their presence, to soak up their knowledge and their wisdom and the little nuggets they continue to drop along the way in terms of your conversations with the seniors. And I believe they deserve the best. They deserve us to give them an environment that is inviting, that is pleasing, and that is indicative of persons who have served and have contributed to this country. So I insist the team that we spare no expense, particularly for our seniors, to ensure that they have a comfortable environment to enjoy their golden years. And I want to say to the member of the third that he has my commitment, and even without his prodding, we've already started to look at how we can get the senior program. I know there was a vibrant program in the third district, revived and put back in place once that center is reopened. So we're working towards ensuring that we have the environment for our seniors and our persons in the golden age. Speaker, I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes. I just want to really talk about some areas of concerns, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I believe that the Eastern Longlow community and the roads in that community has been the butt of a series of jokes on social media these days. And I think it's no laughing matter for me, Madam Speaker. In the opposition, I've been very deliberate. I've continued to ask questions in this House about the road infrastructure in our community. And when you thought it couldn't get worse, Madam Speaker, it has gotten extremely and excruciatingly worse for the people that live in our community. Madam Speaker, we had some heated and sometimes sensitive discussions on how we're going to address the road infrastructure in our territory, and particularly I spoke about the road infrastructure in my community, and the community that I share with the Honorable Premier, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have to address this situation within our community. I know that there's a particular road in question in Greenland that I continue to advocate for because I see the danger, Madam Speaker, for the residents that live in our community. And it's unfortunate the minister is not here at this point, but I think it's important for us to really look at how to get that particular piece of road addressed and fixed once and for all, and thus overall the maintenance of our road infrastructure. We have a responsibility and a duty to the taxpayers of this country to maximize the resources that we have, to make sure that we, at least, at the bare minimum, deliver proper road infrastructure for the people of our territory. At the bare minimum, Madam Speaker. Our people at least deserve that. And we all have a responsibility in that effort. It's not just the responsibility of the Minister of Works. It is all our responsibility and our collective responsibility and commitment needs to be to present and prepare and the finances to be able to deliver that for the people of this territory. So I'm going to continue to be loud and make sure that my voice is heard on this issue because I believe we all have a responsibility in this. So I'm committed to working with the minister to ensure that those elements, that whatever we need to do to get those roads addressed in our communities, that we do so and get it done in a timely manner for the people of this community, this territory, and my community in particular, who have been, and if I dare say, is one of the worst in this entire territory. Madam Speaker, one of the areas that I was really pushing on in the committee stages was the issue of revenues. We have to get serious about revenue generation in this country. We have to not just use revenue generation as a buzzword to talk about diversification of our economy, but seriously focus on true and real ways to generate revenue in this territory. In addition to also look at how we could maximize the areas that already exist, the key revenue generators within our community. So I'm committed to that, and I'm committed to pushing the Ministry of Finance and all of us collectively coming up with those ideas to move us forward in terms of new revenue streams. And I'm happy and I'm excited that the Trade Commission is coming on stream, and they have a responsibility through the Investment Promotion Agency to look at ways to get investments going in the territory, and also look at how businesses could exploit the opportunities through those new investment opportunities. Madam Speaker, the time is fast spent, so I'm going to to stop for now, but I want to commit to the territory and the people of this territory my commitment to addressing the serious and vexing issues that plague the Ministry of Health. It's one of those ministries that nobody wants to go near. As the former minister said, the fate of persons in our ministry have not been very good because of the challenges and the issues that we face, and they touch everyone in the territory. But I'm committed. I know the team at the Ministry of Health is committed to addressing the challenges. We don't look at them as challenges, but as opportunities. We're committed to being open and transparent in terms of our approach. We are going to share where we are and where we intend to go and how we intend to get there, so that people could judge us every step of the way as we approach fixing the issues that we face as a ministry and as a territory collectively. So, Madam Speaker, I again stand in support of this supplementary appropriation. I again stand in support of the Premier as we work collaboratively to address the issues that this country faces. Again, he has my support. He doesn't have my acquiescence. He doesn't have my silence, nor does he have my blind allegiance, but he has my commitment that we will work for the best interests of this country and ensure that the reforms that we committed to establish and put in place are done in the best interest of the people. So I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I so move.
Thank you, Minister for Health. I now call on the Premier.
Speaker, I want to thank the members for their support of this motion for this schedule of additional provisions. And I just want to say very briefly, Madam Speaker, that we've deliberated over a number of sessions, and we've had very long deliberations and in-depth deliberations. I want to take the opportunity to praise the members of the Government of National Unity for being committed to the task, for, of course, having the courage to challenge, having the courage to question, and even having the courage to, in some instances, compromise. I want to mention specifically Honorable Turnbull, Minister for Natural Resources and Labor, and also Honorable Penn, Minister for Health and Social Development, because of course this SAP would have begun before the Government of National Unity, and certainly they would not have really seen themselves in it. And of course had some questions about it, of course, and I would say, Madam Speaker, that they've shown great maturity, not just in the instance of this SAP, but in their approach to this Government of National Unity. And I want to show my appreciation to them for the maturity they've shown and the commitment that they have shown to making this work, because certainly it's not easy, of course. And I want to assure them, Madam Speaker, and all the members of the National Unity Government, that each member's views will be a strong part of what we do. Their views, their input, their presence. We don't aim to make anyone feel ostracized or not a part. And I'm committed to the collaborative working of the Government of National Unity, that we be a government of unity, not just in name, but also in deed. And certainly we will, as we move forward together, we will cement that unity even more than what exists right now. And the people of the Virgin Islands deserve that, Madam Speaker. So having said that, I won't say much. Of course, I also want to praise the leader of the opposition, who certainly, of course, he said that soon he'll transition to criticism. But I am grateful for his advice that he has given and his encouragement and even his gentle prodding, and even when he shifts to more criticism, as he says, I know that it will be constructive criticism, and we recognize the very important role that the leader of the opposition and the opposition plays generally. And we know that holding the government's feet to the fire is very important in any thriving democracy. The specific points in the SAP I won't necessarily bring up, Madam Speaker, because the night is fast spent. But just to say those points have certainly been noted. We recognize there are still many areas which need attention. And I'm committed, along with the members of this administration, to finding more savings, to be able to accomplish more projects, to be more efficient, to be more effective, and to give better value for money for the people of the Virgin Islands. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I certainly place this motion before members for their support. We thank the verbal support that members have given, and we look forward to an affirmative vote on this resolution, Madam Speaker. And I say a very pleasant thank you to the members for their support, and also thank you to you, Madam Speaker, and for the staff of the House of Assembly who've stayed here throughout the evening tonight. Close to 12 hours we've been here working on behalf of the people, and I want to thank you as well. So I so move, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Premier and Minister of Finance. It has been moved and seconded that the Council approves the sums of money detailed in the Schedules of Additional Provision number 1 of 2022. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. I wish to thank the honorable members for your participation this evening. At this time, we will recess the House until the 16th day of June 2022 at 10 a.m.